This form of currency is how you make people feel, right? I don't care if I have the attention of 1 million people. I want to know if I can get the 25 potential people to feel the way I want them to feel so that they click the button to contact me.
Bald Dad Business Club, less hair, more wisdom. I'm Desi. We got Casey on the horn. And today we're talking about the invisible conversation. What are the messages that you didn't know you were sending to everyone around you? But before we dive into that, tell me something good, Casey.
What is good, Desi? It is a beautiful night out here in Owasso, Michigan. And I tell you what, dude, we just got back from vacation in the Tennessee mountains. Taking 3 kids to the Tennessee mountains is a little bit stressful, especially when you're staying on in a cabin where your driveway is about a 70-degree pitch to get up and down it.
Nice.
And you have a deck with a hot tub and a sauna, and there's black bears everywhere. But you know what? Shout out to my Courtney. We made it. And we even got a date night the day after we returned. So nice. Back in one piece, fresh as a Tennessee mountain stream. What's good with you, Chief?
I tell you what, we just had an awesome double birthday party for the daughters. My wife, Courtney, also my Courtney, rocked it out. Awesome decorations. And she made this really cool, like dirty soda, dirty lemonade, dirty tea bar for the kids. Well, for everyone. My favorite was the unicorn flavoring.
It's a little more dirty when you put bourbon in it.
She did such a good job getting the house right. Like, I mean, I've just been working away like crazy, man. But she's off because she's a teacher, obviously. So she got the house ready. It looked gorgeous. But I got to slip in and smoked 4 quality pork butts for 14 plus hours. Chef kiss.
I saw that, and I think I gained 3 pounds just watching your process of smoking the butts.
Yeah, man. We mixed that with a little Chick-fil-A catered mac and cheese. Oh man, was it?
It's a solid 1-2 punch right there. Definitely go get your cholesterol checked a little bit.
Yeah,
but,
right.
I think I think you're offsetting that with your CrossFitting and such. So
no doubt, baby, no doubt.
Well worth it, man. I tell you what, I'm a little stoked for this topic today. It's something that I kind of stumbled upon as I was researching a little bit about how our staff communicates with potential leads. And what I noticed was a lot more people these days prefer to communicate via text, via email, via DM, via comments, via phones. And what happens in those situations is a loss of emotion for the conversation. And what a lot of people don't realize, Desi, is that emotion is actually the product and service that you're selling. Your product and service is just the catalyst of which you sell that emotion. So wherein I mean that, right? You are a plumbing contractor and you get called to a job to install a new water heater. But the pretenses of why you're installing that new water heater are just as important as to why. You're installing a new water heater at a home of an elderly couple who's living paycheck to paycheck off of their Social Security, and their old water heater broke to the point where it flooded their basement. Yeah. You're not selling a new water heater in the installation. You're selling peace of mind and safety. And if you can think of that in how you deliver your message, you're going to be a lot more successful in those things. But it also comes down to basic communication. So I came to this topic and I immediately went back, as I do, into the annals of history, into where humans began communicating with one another and how that became. So I think a lot of us know that the most powerful form of conversation happens face to face.
No doubt.
And that's because we are genetically programmed as humans to be able to read emotion on people's faces. If you go over to Pakistan and you have a conversation with somebody, chances are you're not going to verbally speak the same language, but you're going to be able to tell if they're excited to see you, if they're angry about something, if they're sad, if they're in fear, if they are intimidating you, just by the expressions on their face. So then we take that a little bit further and we implement it into video calls like this, right? Obviously, we can see each other's faces, but at the same rate, we're also looking off on different sections of the screen. So it's a little less implementative. Take that a step further, you take away entirely your screen. And now we're just on a phone call, right? Now I only have my voice to convey emotion. How do I change things around in that aspect? Well, it's vocal tonality. It's the volume in which I speak. It's the cadence in which I speak. But then you get a little bit further into the weeds, right? Now you're into your emails. Now you're into your comments. Now you're into your text. And where I came across this then was into something I like to call emojiology, right? We're 40-year-old bald men, all right? You're not your typical emoji users. But you and I do both use emojis when we're text communicating with each other. It's because that emoji is there to help convey an emotional message along with what we're saying.
Yeah.
So
100%.
Today, what we're going to talk about is that invisible conversation that takes place. That's actually the emotional hook that you need to tie everything together.
Yeah, man, you talk about, I mean, you know, if you're a leader, owner, manager, team leader, if you're a dad, a husband, a wife, like relationships, all of the above, like this works in all aspects, you know, of human communication in general. Honestly, the first thing that comes to mind for me is a story that my pastor used to tell of like, he'd say, hey, he'd say, list 5 sermons that changed your life, right? And you'd be like, we have one, right? That I remember, right? And then he'd say, list 5 people that have changed your life. And you're like, oh, I can go right down the line, right? I got those 5 names. And he said, what's the difference? And he said, it's because of how they made you feel. 100%, right? So it's like, as a leader, how are you making your team feel? In your communication throughout your everyday, right? The goal is to get them to want to run through a brick wall for you, right? And at its very basic level, like, you're not just responsible for what you say, you're responsible for how they hear it, understand it, and feel it, right? That's another level, right? Like, you know, I hear all the time, like, leaders love to say, like, that's not what I meant, right? So, but that's still poor communication, because if they're saying that, if you say that to someone, how is that going to make them feel? Like, you're basically telling them they're stupid, right? Which is not going to make them feel well. So, like, you need to take absolute accountability of that, right? And your intent matters a lot, because it comes through. Like, even if your words aren't perfect, I think your motive and your intent behind it are very important when it comes to the invisible conversation. Even without the emojis, like, I seriously feel like there's like divine intervention when you send something. Like, there's like a feeling that comes through with it. Obviously, you can shortcut all of that by putting an emoji and adding a couple more words, which is what we're talking about, right? But I think the core thing is, as a leader, how are you making your people feel?
Yeah. And it's, like when I told you when we started this, I went through the annals of history when I was researching this topic. And you look at some of the best leaders to have ever existed and how they motivate the people behind them. And I'm not just talking about, like, obviously we're all familiar with the big war heroes, right? General Patton used to climb up on top of the tank with enemies within firing range to speak to his men and inspire them. Yes, they would Kool-Aid man themselves through a freaking wall for that, right? Douglas MacArthur, the same way. He'd stand up on deck within firing range of the other Navy to inspire his men. And then we can look at things like, every motivational sports speech that you've seen in a movie.
Yeah.
Right. You think of Coach Boone and Remember the Titans, right? One of the greatest movies of all time. The way he addresses his players. You notice in all of those speeches that are depicted, they're walking around the room. They're within face-to-face contact of their people. The words that they're saying are inspiring, but the emotions in which they're delivering them are inspiring as well.
Yeah, I mean,
So they
take it
make
to
it look
business too, because this is another
exactly.
good one. Walt Disney.
Hmm.
Like Walt Disney was textbook at this. He was so good at this. A lot of his staff meetings, he would be on stage in an auditorium, right, acting out and delivering what they all five senses of the thing that he was pitching, like, feel, hear, sound, smell, taste, like all of them. He was so good at it, and he captured all of the senses into that, and that helped him in the business as well.
Yeah, and senses inform our emotions. So that's exactly what we're talking about when we're talking about the invisible conversation pieces. So the difficult part is in modern business now, we're so spread out, right? You might have remote employees, you might have multiple job sites going at the same time. How do you inspire that same kind of motivation and confidence in a manner in which it is cohesive enough across all of those situations? Not to mention, how do you inspire that same type of message to your potential leads, right? What about the invisible conversation that you have with potential leads before they even contact you?
Yeah, as you're
So
developing team members, as you're developing leaders and managers, like, wow, is that so important?
I like to say the antithesis of the Gary V, the greatest form of currency is attention. The antithesis to that is the greatest form of currency is how you make people feel, right? I don't care if I have the attention of a million people. I want to know if I can get the 25 potential people to feel the way I want them to feel so that they click the button to contact me. Right.
Yeah.
And we can do that through multiple means before they even get a hold of us. Right. Your website, your social media, the reviews. My gosh, dude, the reviews. I said this today to a few of my employees. Go back through and read a company's review. Very rarely will a review say, 5 stars, they fixed my sink.
Right.
That's table stakes. It'll be 5 stars. Man, I had this big time issue. Things were leaking everywhere, and Jordan was able to pick up the call at 8:30 p.m. at night. He was there the next morning. He explained to me everything that went wrong. He fixed it. He explained that every step of the way. He took the time to make sure that everything else was taken care of. He assessed if there was any damage. And at the end of the day, he said, give me a call anytime. I'm happy to help. People connect with that emotion. They connect with the safety of things, right? Am I heard? Am I understood? Do I feel safe? And that happens not just with that first time you sit across from the table with somebody, right? That happens in all of the messaging that you've given to them prior to that, right? The friend's recommendation that they heard about you from. And it also happens with the post care, the aftercare. How do you take care of them after that? Did you follow up? Hey, 2 weeks later, is your sink still operating fine? I just wanted to check. Like, imagine how taken care of somebody feels when they have that little emotional tick 2 weeks later.
I think a key in the delivery of this too, when we first started talking about it, to me it's DISC, right? So the communication and personality styles, because you have to understand the concept first, but then once you understand the concept, you have to be able to deliver it. And one of the ways to be the most like productive at it, when I say productive, I mean like fast and good. Essentially, efficiency, effectiveness, fast and good, is if you know DISC well, which dominant, influence, steady, conscientious, right? There's 4 styles of the personality, the communication styles, and the goal of that is in that communication is connection, right? Like your communication, transfer of information, right? Connection is it's feeling, right? We have now connected as humans, and the core connection of that, the way you want to make them feel is that I am heard and understood, right? And there's tactics to that when it comes to DISC, and we could probably go down that rabbit hole for an entire podcast, maybe even bring on some other visitors that we've trained in DISC as well. But knowing how to deliver your message using DISC, and it's very simple. Once you know it, you'll never forget it. But it's almost like a super secret ninja hack, I like to say, to make sure that your invisible conversation, that message is strong and that message is intentional. And it's super important to help you deliver it to each of the different types of people, because like a D personality, it's going to be different than it is an S personality, and so on and so forth. So I think that's key to think about too, is what type of person am I talking to? And am I leading? Am I trying to market to? All of the above, and to take that in as another data point to help you ensure that your message in that invisible conversation is going the right way that you want it to.
Well, it's cool you bring that up too. Obviously, we know DISC is a lot in just how somebody's brain is built.
Yes.
So this whole invisible conversation theory and concept is built and rooted in neuroscience. And let me go ahead and put my nerd dad hat on here for a second, because as I was going through and researching this, two major things stood out. Most of the people watching or listening to this have probably seen The Waterboy, and they probably remember Professor Colonel Sanders talking about the medulla oblongata. So we hear oblongata as, Waterboy fans, and we just think that is the center of your brain that processes and creates anger, right? Alligators have an enlarged medulla oblongata, ergo they are angrier all the time. But the oblongata is this beautiful little like almond shaped piece in your brain where you process all of your emotions. And those emotions get processed in 0.2 milliseconds. So it literally is a neurotic reaction to things. And anybody who ever told you that there's such a thing as a neutral reaction is wrong. Right? There is a whole wheel of emotions, and I encourage you to look up what the wheel of emotions looks like.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Because there are hundreds of them. And any time that you say something to somebody face to face, via text, via phone call, in an email, you're evoking one of those emotions on the emotion wheel. Now, here's the other cool thing about humans. We learned early on in our existence that we cannot exist without each other. So we were also built with these things called mirror neurons. Those neurons in our brain automatically mirror emotion to other people. It's why somebody might cry and that causes somebody else to cry. Or somebody might get super duper fired up on the football field, headbutt their friend in a helmet, and then you got two offensive linemen that are ready to absolutely crush. Those are the mirror neurons. So through our oblongata, through our mirror neurons, we are able to process that likeness to one another. And those are the things that are truly never said. Now, to what you're saying, if you understand DISC and how to implement it and how each person is built, and you can identify, folks, if you've never met Desi, he can identify somebody on a DISC spectrum within like 2 minutes of a conversation.
Yeah.
It's a skill. But if you can do that, then you can have these invisible conversations with somebody and get them to be on your side in whatever it is, right? Get them to, convert on my product or service, get them to understand the feedback that I was getting them, get them to care about me, right? Those are the things that certain people can do in written and unwritten communication.
Yeah, I tell you, one of the things that you and I have talked about, and I remember this from my training from Maxwell Leadership, from John Maxwell Leadership, is public speaking, right? But I think it applies to like just leadership in general, any communication. So he calls it payoffs. So it's like peaks and valleys and then plateaus, right? So it's basically like any time that you're evoking emotion. So like anytime you can like make them cry or make them feel sad, that's a valley, right? Anytime you can, get them fired up and inspired and motivated, that's a peak. Anytime you can like evoke a laugh, right? That's a peak. And then basically the key was like, you never want too much of a plateau. You want peaks and valleys, peaks and valleys, peaks and valleys with periodic plateaus. But like, you didn't want to go more than like 3 minutes in a speech of a plateau, right? And probably that's like way too long. Honestly, his frameworks of where he writes his scripts for his speeches, have very few plateaus at all. Like it's like story happy, story sad, joke, right? Teaching point, story happy, story sad, like, and I think that's something to take note of and study as we're communicating, as we're leading, as we're marketing, even in that, like, where are peaks and valleys, or are we just kind of a plateau type of person?
Yeah.
That's going to get people to follow us better and more powerfully. It's going to get people to engage in our stuff. It's going to get people to do more for us. It's going to make people happier. All ships rise to that tide for the good.
Yeah. And it's, you know what else it does, Desi, is it kills confusion, right? Our brains, when we are not able to formulate a direct emotional connection to things, our brains automatically fill that in. Right. It's like people that have an experience with like face blindness, right? There's that blank face right there. Everything else exists, but the face does not. So our brains, right, can fill that blank in if we don't have face blindness. The same goes for confusion with emotion, right? Our brain will put an emotion there because that's comfort and safety. However, humans have also evolved to be a little risk aversive, right? Because as much as we are predators, in the past we have been prey. So that automatic emotional response breeds itself in a lot of cases to hesitation, right? To uncertainty. And if you are trying to message to a potential customer, or you are trying to convey feedback to an employee, the last thing you want is that hesitation and uncertainty, right? When your offer, your website, your pricing, your call to action, when those things are unclear, people tend to tune out. They become hesitant. They don't trust you. And honestly, they won't even ask for clarifications. They'll just run.
Yeah.
And as we all know, man, like confused customers do not convert.
They don't take action.
And confused employees do not execute.
Yeah, I think it's also key to look at this the other way and say, like, what's at stake, right? So I think it would be safe to say the individual conversation becomes even dangerous when people react to what they think that you meant, right? Because we almost always fill in the story if it's not given to us, which, I mean, replace story with emotion. And by the way, almost never good. Right? Like we have a negative connotation, a negative go-to on that. So what does that mean? Well, a small misunderstanding or a small fill in the blank of we think we meant this or they meant that, it turns into drama, tension, rework, mistakes, resentment, lack of trust, broken trust. When people are reacting through assumption, right, instead of good clarification on I know how they feel. So I can get in alignment with that because I feel connected, right? Most conflict, whether it's like direct and aggressive or like kind of undertone conflict, does not start with what was said. It starts with what was felt and assumed. And that can be a very dangerous thing, which I think really nails down and hammers down the point of what is the intentional conversation that you're having? What messages are you delivering that you don't even know? Hopefully, just by listening to this, you're now aware, right? And then that's the first step is a heightened level of awareness, so you can start to think about it and think about what you're thinking about, and then deliver and implement your intent and evoke more emotion, or at least deliver the emotion that you're wanting them to feel in that interaction or communication.
Bingo. I think that's perfect what you just said there at the end, because as long as you control the emotionality in that communication, they're going to feel what you intend them to feel. But if you do leave any gaps, there's that possibility and almost an inevitability that they are going to feel a negative emotion based on it. So one of the big exercises that I learned maybe a couple years ago, and it's helped me greatly as a leader. It's helped me greatly as a husband. It's helped me great as a dad. It's helped me great as a friend. Is always, how is this going to make somebody else feel? Mm-hmm. Right? Before I send a text message to one of my brothers, right? I know what they're going through at the given time. I know if they're, at their wits' end, they're going through something difficult. They're going through a happy time in their life. How is what I'm texting them going to make them feel? It's the same way to your employees, right? How is what I'm saying in this email going to make somebody feel? And like, listen, dude, we're all guilty of it, right? We open up our laptop at 10 at night because we got this great idea and we type it up and we send it out to all of our team and we wake up and our entire team's going, what the shit? Like, what is this? What does this mean? What do you want me to do with this? Right. And okay, it's just me, a leader, being excited about an idea. But because I rifled it together and I didn't think to myself, how is this going to make people feel? The negative emotion comes in with, what did I do wrong? What am I not doing? What do you want me to do about this? Is this even my department? So that confusion, that excitement that you initially have and you want your team to get behind because you come up with this great idea at 11 o'clock at night leads to confusion, leads to negative emotion, leads to, people second guessing if they're even doing their job right. Mm-hmm. Like, so it is a major double-edged sword. And that's why that invisible conversation is so important. And I mean, Desi, like, once you figure out that at the root of any product or service is emotion, and your product or service is just the way that you implement it, you're going to be in such a stronger place with your own people, with your customer base. Hell, you're even going to be in a stronger place with how you go about things.
Yeah, every relationship and interaction you have with any human.
It's a powerful thing, man. And I encourage anybody listening to this, just take that step back, let those mirror neurons fire, reach deep into your oblongata, and just second guess yourself. How is this going to make somebody feel?
Well, you heard it, leaders. What is the invisible conversation you're having? What messages are you delivering? Invoke emotion, because that is the product or service. Even if that product or service is leadership, is marketing, is business, is any of the things that you've got going on in every single human interaction that you have. Bald Dad Business Club, less hair, more wisdom, the invisible conversation. We are out.